geospatial information science and remote sensing.
In just 1 year, President William Ruto has made history as the first president to make 48 trips slightly over a year after assuming office. The trips that have put him on the receiving end, with some accusing him of wasting taxpayers' money. Similarly, Kenyan airspace has been busy with foreign dignitaries making state visits to the country. This begs the question of how beneficial the visits are to Kenya and the economy. Our reporter Brenda Zederadido gives us a detailed report on the high-profile state visits that Kenya has had this year.
The House on the Hill has played host to over 29 presidential visits since President William Ruto was sworn in. There have been a number of high-profile visits in the country, each one of them coming with different intentions or reasons. Have the high-profile visits bore fruit for Kenya?
This diplomatic onslaught of the President of Kenya has opened up a huge market, a huge multiplier effect in terms of jobs, in terms of revenue flows, in terms of foreign exchange coming into the country. This is a serious, serious development.
In 2023, King Charles III made his maiden visit to Africa as the King of England. His first stop was Kenya's capital, Nairobi. The King was accompanied by Queen Consort Camilla during the high-profile visit. Britain's Kenya's former colonial master has commercial interest in Kenya. The King spent 3 days in the country. During his visit, he tackled issues of environmental conservation and reconciliation for Britain's colonial legacy in Kenya.
Wrongdoings of the past are a cause of the greatest sorrow and the deepest regret. There were abhorrent and unjustifiable acts of violence committed against Kenyans as they waged, as you said at the United Nations, a painful struggle.
We cannot live as prisoners of the past. Neither can we go far into the future if we turn our backs on history and historical actions and omissions whose legacies encumber our present.
Documents between UK and Kenya show that the two nations signed a memorandum of understanding to deepen bilateral ties. In February, U.S. First Lady Jill Biden visited Kenya. Her visit was aimed at strengthening Africa-U.S. partnership and advance its shared priorities in the continent. Biden's visit was in line with the resolution of the U.S.-African Summit in Washington, in which President Joe Biden promised more engagements with Africa. Her engagements were focused on the empowerment of women and youth, efforts to address food insecurity, and promotion of shared democratic values. During her stay in Kenya, the American First Lady also took the opportunity to visit drought-stricken areas in Kajiado County. As a result of her visit, the U.S. government donated 16 billion shillings to fight drought in the country.
Children are malnourished. They cannot feed their children. They cannot afford to send their children to schools because there is a fee for the not elementary school, but the older grades.
And each of these women have taken children to the feeding stations that you saw earlier. They've been evaluated for malnutrition. We heard a story of a woman who thought her children were okay. She took them, and all of them were diagnosed with malnutrition.
Kenya hosted the Africa Climate Summit in the last half of the year. Kenya hosted several heads of state and heads of government in Nairobi. Some of the heads of government that attended the summit included Mohamed Al-Mefi of Libya, Sahel Wak Zewde of Ethiopia, Salva Kiir of Sudan, Macky Sall of Senegal, Julius Maada Bio of Sierra Leone, Evariste Ndayishimiye of Burundi, Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana. At the end tail of the summit, the delegation signed the Nairobi Declaration on Climate Action and Africa's role and position in the matter.
We are therefore determined to have difficult conversations, take hard decisions, and make uncomfortable changes. It is also showcases our determination to mobilize a global coalition of emergency responders to make humanity's first home.
These high-level visits from all over the globe indicate that Kenya is definitely sending a very strong message on the diplomatic scene, and that is significant.
The visits and meetings have been termed as a massive shot in the arm for tourism.
Kenya's tourism numbers are at about 1.4, maximum about 1.4 million tourists on an annual basis. The tourism research players here indicate, and they have the data to show that that can happen, that by 2027, if we allow more accessible, Kenya to become more accessible, we are going to grow these numbers from that 1.5 to about 4.5 million by 2027.
According to Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, who is also Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Cabinet Secretary, President William Ruto has taken a balanced approach in his global diplomatic charm offensive, with no region left behind.
Building very critical partnerships, and we are investing systematically so that down the line there can be more benefits. And let me give you one classic example, which in my view people may not appreciate, but it is so significant. Kenya has just signed the Economic Partnership Agreement with the European Union. All right? This is something that has been in the works for 12 years, because in the region there are all sorts of issues that were delaying the execution of this program. Then it took another 2 years of Kenya's negotiation, and then accelerated and concluded by President Ruto. This is giving Kenya access on a duty-free basis, Kenyan goods on a duty-free basis to 27 nations in Europe. Duty-free, quota-free.
While other heads of state flew into the country for bilateral deals, former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo flew into the country for a different reason. He was in Kenya to broker a deal between President Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga after the hotly contested presidential election, which led to the weekly opposition protests. Brenda Zeda Radido, KTN News.